to address them. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support the bill and thank you for bringing it to us.
Thank you, Senator Okia. Senator Sen.Methu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for graciously extending the time to allow us make our comments. You know, last time, Madam Speaker, we were with you here, and I was the last on queue, and our time was spent, so I was not able to make my contribution. And
if you come a little earlier, you'll have a whole 15 minutes.
Yeah. You remember, Speaker, that day I was here early enough, but my colleagues had queued before me. Madam Speaker, I've just been sadly informed that one of our colleagues, Senator for Kiambu, Karongo Dhango, has just lost his mother, Mama Rusia. So
sorry, our deepest condolences to Senator Karungo and his family.
Yes, and that's just what I've been informed just now. Now, Madam Speaker, I rise to support this piece of legislation, which, in my opinion, is a very, very brilliant thought from yourself, Madam Speaker. On my way here, I listened to one of the senators who spoke of the work that you did when you are serving as the Secretary General of the party that I have been elected on. I'm very careful on the choice of words. The party that I have been elected on, the UDA party. And this forms the foundation upon which we actually formed our manifesto. Kenya is an agricultural economy, and so therefore, we must anchor and we must support our farmers so that we make agriculture fashionable. The reason why, Madam Speaker, it is very difficult. You know, these days when you hear people looking and creating employment opportunities, they always want to make it look like the only jobs that can be, commercially viable, or the only jobs that look lucrative, the only jobs that look fashionable are white-collar jobs, Madam Speaker. But we must make agriculture fashionable. We must make it lucrative. Madam Speaker, I have spoken to you in person when we were speaking about this particular bill, and I will tell you of the reservations and where I think we as the Senate need to panel-beat this bill so that it will live to the aspirations, the very aspirations that you had when you formulated this particular bill. I know we or you, as the mover of this bill or the owner of this particular bill, you are working on a very tight edge so that our colleagues do not hang on the Article 114 of the Constitution and call this one a money bill. But, Madam Speaker, before then, let me just make one quick observation on the establishment of a county minimum guarantee committee. First, I agree that we must get a county minimum guarantee committee so that first it can agree on the crops that are for that particular county and the ones that qualify. And Madam Speaker, this is such a critical thing that must be done, because if you look at a county like our county, Nyandarua is an agricultural county first, but most of our agriculture is horticulture. It is highly perishable. And one of the things that we must address, Madam Speaker, I wonder whether many people who actually eat potatoes in Nairobi appreciate that potatoes go bad in less than 5 days. If you harvest your potatoes and you're not able to sell them in 7 days, they all have gone bad. Unfortunately, this is the tragedy of the people of Nyandarua, because all the produce that we grow, potatoes, cabbages, carrots, I don't know how to say minji in English. Yeah, peas. I don't know whether they're cowpeas or they're just peas. No, they are French beans, if I'm not wrong. I think they're French beans. Or French beans is mishiri.
They are not French beans, they are green peas.
Okay, they are green peas. And then even that French bean is grown in Nyandarua, that mishiri. All these produce is highly perishable. And what the kind of suffering that is faced by the people of Nyandarua, the county that I represent, for example, is so dire such that, Madam Speaker, we have to sell our produce at throwaway price because we can't retain that particular produce. Once it's ready, we have to harvest. Once we have harvested, it has to go to the market at the earliest opportunity. Now, for example, Madam Speaker, a 50 kg potato sack in Nyandarua today is retailing at 1,200. You can imagine such a painful thing. But on this establishment of the county minimum guarantee committee, I've seen the number of chief officers who have been proposed to be in that particular committee. I think I would want to add quickly that in the event there is a chief officer for agriculture and a different chief officer for livestock, then both should be able to, we should be able to do an amendment so that we can include one or both, so that we can include both. Now, my reservation on this bill, Madam Speaker, agriculture, according to the 4th schedule of the Constitution of Kenya, is a devolved function. Even as we try and create a pool of the money that will be given to farmers so that we can cushion them, I find that we are going back to the same path of the county without necessarily looking at where money is retained. Agriculture being a devolved function, Madam Speaker, it does not make sense to me as to why. Now, I've seen that the budget policy statement for 2026-2027, the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture is requesting that his ministry is given 75.5 billion. If you look at the budgets of all the counties, for example, none of the counties has more than maybe 100 or even 200 million, or even 300 million, for example, for agriculture alone, Madam Speaker. So therefore, if you are to put together all that money that is meant to give artificial insemination, that is meant to give seeds, that is meant to give all these services, agricultural services, Madam Speaker, it cannot go more than 1.5 billion. It is out of this 1.5 billion that, because we have 47 counties, if each county is setting aside about 300 million, that would be about 1.5 billion, Madam Speaker. We must go back to this national path. There must be some money that is coming from out of this 75.5 billion, Madam Speaker. We must get some money. And, you know, Madam Speaker, it will be very easy because this is money that can be ring-fenced. And if we are to live to the manifesto of the UDA government, the party that have been elected on, we had not promised the people of Kenya that this minimum guaranteed return will be a preserve of the county governments alone, Madam Speaker. There must be some money that will be ring-fenced from the national coffers, Madam Speaker, and this money will be, you know, right now, we have money that we give as conditional grant for FROCA. There are specific functions that are supposed to be catered for by that particular fund, Madam Speaker. So therefore, there must be some money. We must see it in the budget of the national government that this is the money that we have set aside so that we can cushion our farmers, so that our farmers can be able to know that when we grow this, or rather, when we engage ourselves in this particular endeavor, this is the minimum that we shall get when we engage ourselves in this endeavor. Madam Speaker, if we leave it to the county governments, it will be a question of +1 -1, which is just 0. Because the budgets they have are quite squeezed. And you don't expect, Madam Speaker, that they will appropriate especially money that they use for recurrent, and we imagine that this money they will appropriate it to, I'm winding up, Madam Speaker, they will appropriate it to be in the budget for the minimum guaranteed returns, Madam Speaker. We must introduce an amendment to this bill, and I want to persuade you, Madam Speaker, we must introduce an amendment to this bill, Madam Speaker, so that we can have some money that will be set aside by the Ministry of Agriculture, and then this money will be saved and will be for ensuring that we cushion our farmers. I know our time is gone, Madam Speaker, and since I had also already persuaded you personally, I think I would want to persuade you that we move that amendment so that this bill will actually be a bill that can be implemented. Asanteni sana.
The mover of this bill, who apparently is the chair of this session today. Will you reply?